Preview.
A few weeks ago, we went to Madrid with a group of about 35 students. We went to see how the social work is organized in Spain and how it is different from the social work in the Netherlands. We had a great time, and Madrid is a beautiful city. The thing that we did notice was that there were a lot of homeless people on the streets, begging for money or begging for food. And we noticed this because in the Netherlands we don't see the homeless people on the street. We do have homeless people, they just don't live on the street because it's not allowed. So this was interesting to us, and that's why we wanted to take this as a central topic. During our first stroll through the city, we immediately noticed the big amount of homeless people on the street. There was almost one on every street. Most of them seemed to be old and from East European countries, often accompanied by dogs. How silly it is. It was obvious that they weren't from Spain. Often they would have a sign that would say "Give me money" in Spanish, with a small jar next to it. Samur Social is a social service for people that need help immediately. The idea to start this organization began after the attacks on the 11th of March 2004. Because of these attacks, a lot of people were wounded and lost their houses. Many rescuers worked together, such as the police, the firefighters, and the hospital. By calling the emergency number 112, you can reach Samur Social. This organization has many different duties. They coordinate different services, they inform people on the duties of the organization, and they support homeless people. There are three kinds of emergencies: individual emergencies, in a family or one person; collective emergencies, a group or a family; or big situations like a disaster such as the plane crash in 2008. Around Christmas in the year 2012, they did an experiment. They wanted to know how many people were living on the streets around this time of the year. A shocking 701 people slept on the streets of Madrid. In 2014, they did this experiment again and counted only 600 people. The people that sleep on the streets are mainly men, about 80%. They are around 42 years old, and most of them are immigrants. Often the people have multiple problems and make them live on the street. Nowadays, much more young people around the age of 18 till 24 stay on the streets as well. Because of the crisis in Spain, they are not able to find a job after they graduate. Also, the youth facilities for young people with special needs are only for people up to the age of 18. So for them, there is almost no support once they turn 18. Samur Social has created a program to support these young people as well.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for their daily races, going nowhere, going.
Samur Social build a network of centers and communities that support the homeless by giving them a place to stay overnight. We visited one of those places one afternoon. Little buses took us to the center, which was just outside of town. When we arrived, the homeless people only just arrived as well. They first had to identify themselves. The co-workers had a list of all the people that would sleep there that night. Then their bags and suitcases were put in a locker so that they could come to pick it up in the morning. Many different people came to the center, men, women, young and old. If they had a certain card, they can prove that they are allowed to stay there for 1 week. They can apply for this card at the center. When this card expires, they can apply for a new one. About 150 people could sleep at this center every night, 365 nights a year. Then we got a tour through the center. The rooms all looked kind of the same, and they didn't have a lot of color. The men slept on one side and the women on the other. It kind of looked like a hostel. All the rooms had multiple bunk beds in them. There were quite a lot of showers and toilet as well. Compared to the men, there were very few women. There was a kind of cafeteria where they could get breakfast and dinner as part of their stay at the center. Another room was intended for some creative activities for the few people that stayed at the center during the day. Most of the people would be brought back to the city in the morning together with their bags and personal belongings. Every night there's also a doctor at the center that gives medication to the people that needs it. The doctor also treats people that need antibiotics. In this way they manage the health of the homeless people. The doctor did tell us that he was just a nurse and he was actually not able to give all the treatments that a doctor could give. One afternoon we went to the university. There we met social work students from different countries that study there. They gave a presentation about international development and the projects that social workers do there. We also had a moment to ask them questions about their experience with the homeless people in Madrid. They agreed that it would be better if there were less people sleeping on the streets. And they were surprised to hear that in the Netherlands you don't see homeless people on the street. They say it's a problem because of the crisis in Spain. They would like to do something about it, but they don't know how.
Run past the rivers, run past all the light. Feel it crashing and burning till it all collides. Strike a match, lit the fire, shining up the sky. As it all comes down again, as it all comes down again, as it all comes down again to the south.